This is the story of a young black man who walked into a courtroom with his head held high, only to be humiliated, disrespected, and underestimated by a powerful attorney who thought she could break him. But what she didn't know? This brother wasn't just another defendant. They laughed when he walked in. The courtroom buzzed with whispers as 25-year-old Malik Carter stood alone, dressed in a slightly wrinkled suit, a briefcase he borrowed from his uncle clutched tightly in his hand. His face was calm, but his eyes carried a storm. He wasn't supposed to be here. Not in this courtroom. Not standing across from Amanda Whitmore, the renowned district attorney who had never lost a case. Amanda leaned over to her junior associate and chuckled under her breath. "Is this a prank?" Who let the intern take center stage? The courtroom chuckled with her. Even the judge glanced over his glasses with quiet amusement. But Malik didn't flinch. He was representing his cousin, Jamal, a young man wrongfully accused of armed robbery. The case was airtight, they said. Surveillance footage, eyewitnesses, a signed confession. Amanda was so confident she didn't even prepare a closing statement. But Malik knew something they didn't. He had spent sleepless nights poring through every document, every second of footage, every word of testimony. He knew this case better than Amanda, better than the judge, better than anyone. Because this wasn't just about justice, this was personal. You see, 2 years ago Malik was a promising law student, bright, focused, determined. Until one night, he was pulled over, mistaken for someone else, roughed up, and charged with resisting arrest. He lost his scholarship. He lost his place in law school. But he never lost his mind. While others gave up, Malik hit the books. He studied case law in the back of libraries, slept on couches, and worked at diners to keep going. And now, he was here, standing toe-to-toe with the woman who once called young black men like him time bombs in suits. Amanda opened the trial with flair, smooth, charismatic, her words like honey laced with venom. She painted Jamal as a repeat offender, a menace to society, and when Malik objected, she smirked. "Objection, Your Honor. Relevance." Overruled. The judge barely looked at Malik. The jury barely listened. And Amanda? She barely tried. Until it was Malik's turn. He stood, took a slow breath, walked to the center of the courtroom, his voice quiet but firm. "Ladies and gentlemen, they want you to believe what's easy to believe. But I ask you, do you want justice or just a quick verdict?" The room stilled. He pulled out the surveillance footage, froze the frame, zoomed in. "That's not Jamal," he said. "That man has a tattoo on his neck. Jamal does not." Amanda scoffed. "It's grainy footage. Could be anything." Malik nodded. "So let's enhance it." He had brought his own digital forensic analyst, a friend from undergrad who owed him a favor. They enhanced the footage live. The tattoo was clear. A snake wrapped around a dagger. Jamal's neck was clean. The jury leaned forward. Amanda leaned back. But Malik wasn't done. He called the officer who took the confession. Calmly, respectfully, he asked about the procedures. The officer got flustered, contradicted himself, and then Malik dropped the hammer. "Were you aware my client was denied access to legal counsel during questioning?" The courtroom went silent. The judge sat up. Amanda's smile cracked. Malik pulled out Jamal's phone records. His cousin had called for a lawyer, multiple times. All logged, all ignored. Due process, violated. The confession, inadmissible. The evidence, collapsing. Amanda scrambled. She objected. She tried to recover, but it was too late. Malik had already flipped the table. His closing argument was a symphony of truth. He didn't shout. He didn't grandstand. He told the jury a story about a system too eager to assume, too blind to see, and too proud to admit when it's wrong. He ended with one line. "Don't let this courtroom become just another place where justice goes to die." When the verdict came back, Not guilty. Jamal wept. The courtroom erupted. Amanda didn't speak. She gathered her files with shaking hands, avoiding Malik's eyes. But Malik walked over, calm, steady. "You said we were time bombs in suits," he said quietly. "Turns out I am, just not the kind you expected." And then he walked out. But that's not where it ends. Later that night, Amanda was in her office, furious, embarrassed. She pulled up Malik's name, and her eyes widened. She saw the records, the wrongful arrest, the dropped charges, the scholarship loss, and then she saw it, an application to the state bar, pending review. He wasn't even a lawyer yet. She had just been dismantled, humiliated by a man who wasn't legally licensed. Her face went pale, because she realized if the board found out, everything could be overturned. The case, her credibility, her record. But before she could even move, her assistant walked in with an envelope. "Someone dropped this off for you." Amanda opened it. Inside was a single note, handwritten. "Don't worry, I'll see you again. In court. Next time I'll be licensed." She froze, and on the back of the note, the name of her next big case. One she thought no one knew about. Malik did. The room felt colder now. Amanda stared at the note in her hand like it was a ghost. "Don't worry, I'll see you again. In court. Next time I'll be licensed." She read it twice, then flipped it over again. Johnson versus City of Brookridge. No one outside her office should have known about that case. It was confidential. A high-stakes civil suit against the city. A wrongful death case. Sensitive. Explosive. One wrong move and the city's reputation and her career would go up in flames. And now Malik knew. Amanda rushed to her computer, pulled up his name again. Malik Carter. No law license, no firm. Just a pending application with the state bar and a growing online following. People were already calling him the people's lawyer. He had no power, and yet, right now, he had all of it. Because the case Amanda was defending involved the police department. A teenage boy, 16 years old, shot and killed during a routine stop. The department claimed he reached for a weapon. His family claimed he was unarmed. And guess who the victim's family had just hired to represent them? Malik. He wasn't licensed. Yet. But the hearing was weeks away. Just enough time. Amanda laughed. Not because it was funny, but because the irony stung. She had mocked him, dismissed him, tried to bury him in court. And now, he was about to drag her into the very storm she thought she controlled. She remembered his words. "Turns out I am a time bomb, just not the kind you expected." The news broke 2 days later. Wrongful death case against city gets surprise new lead litigator, Malik Carter. People went wild. Social media lit up. Headlines popped across screens. Not because of the case, but because of the man. The same young black man who just embarrassed the DA in a courtroom was now leading a case that could cost the city millions. Amanda showed up to her office the next morning to a swarm of reporters. "Ms. Whitmore, any comment on Malik Carter joining the case? Do you think you're at risk of losing again? Is your job on the line?" She ignored them. But inside, panic. Because Amanda remembered what happened during discovery, how evidence in the police case had gone missing, body cam footage that conveniently didn't record, witness statements that were misplaced. And now Malik would dig, and he wouldn't stop. 3 days later, she got a call. It was from Chief Ramos, head of the Brookridge PD. His voice was tight, nervous. "You didn't tell me he was on the case?" Amanda sighed. "He's just a kid. I'll handle it." "Number, you don't get it," Ramos said. "We looked into him. He's already filed subpoenas. He knows about the dash cam footage. He's not bluffing." Amanda paused. "Dash cam footage was lost." "Not to him?" Ramos snapped. He found a copy. Internal Affairs has it. He's pushing for release. Amanda's stomach dropped. That footage wasn't just damning. It was nuclear. If Malik got it admitted, the city would settle. Not because it was right, but because it would prove everything. The boy never reached for a weapon. He was standing still, hands up, and Amanda, she'd be exposed for withholding it. The next day in court, Malik arrived in a crisp navy suit. His bar license had just been approved. He stood taller, moved smoother, spoke with the authority of a man who no longer had to beg for respect. He had earned it, and now he demanded it. Amanda tried to play it cool, but the judge and the jury pool already knew what was coming. Malik began with a motion to compel evidence. He spoke slow, clear. Director. Your Honor, the defense has withheld a critical piece of video footage that not only contradicts sworn testimony, but may prove intentional misconduct by city officials. I request an immediate in-camera review. Amanda objected. The judge looked annoyed. You were aware of this footage, Ms. Whitmore? I was told it wasn't admissible, she stammered. Malik leaned forward, eyes locked on hers. Or was it just inconvenient? The judge ordered the footage be reviewed in chambers. Amanda's face was pale. Outside the courtroom, reporters swarmed again. This time, Amanda didn't even bother to answer. That night, she sat alone in her office, hands trembling, watching the footage on her screen. It was worse than she remembered. The boy, 16, hoodie on, earbuds in, didn't move. He didn't run. He didn't resist. He was shot anyway. 5 times. And then, silence. No aid. No remorse. Just one officer whispering, "Say he reached." Amanda shut the laptop, her palms sweating. Malik already had a copy, and she knew. This wasn't just a trial anymore. It was a reckoning. But just when she thought it couldn't get worse, a knock at her door. She opened it and froze. It was a man in a black suit, holding a manila envelope. Ms. Whitmore? Yes? I'm from the Attorney General's office. You're under review for prosecutorial misconduct. We'd like to ask you a few questions about Malik Carter. Amanda couldn't breathe. Justice wasn't just knocking. It was kicking the door down. She didn't move. Amanda Whitmore stood frozen in the doorway of her office, staring at the man from the Attorney General's office. His face was expressionless, professional, but his words hit like a wrecking ball. Ma'am, you are under formal review for potential prosecutorial misconduct in multiple cases, starting with the Carter versus City of Brookridge filing. Multiple. The word echoed in her head like a bell tolling at a funeral. This wasn't just about the boy who got shot. It was bigger. Behind her, the lights in her office flickered, a fitting metaphor, because everything around Amanda was starting to dim. She invited the man in with a shaking hand and poured herself a glass of water she couldn't bring to her lips. He opened the manila envelope, pulled out documents, emails, even audio transcripts. Ms. Whitmore, did you knowingly withhold body cam evidence in more than one trial? Amanda's mouth opened, but no words came. Because deep down, she knew the answer. Yes, she had done it before, for the sake of conviction rates, for career points, for headlines, for power. She had done it quietly, cleverly. She thought no one would ever put the pieces together, but Malik had. Because this wasn't his first time studying a crooked courtroom. It was his life. While Amanda had climbed the ladder by silencing young black men, Malik had spent his life watching that ladder pull away from people like him. And now, not only was he climbing, he was shaking the whole damn thing. 3 days later, the courtroom was packed. The wrongful death trial had begun. National outlets were there now. The gallery was full of students, activists, veterans of the legal system, and in the front row sat Jamal, the cousin Malik had freed, watching his redemption unfold. Malik walked in, cool, sharp, unshakable, no longer underestimated. Amanda entered moments later. No cameras followed her, no excitement, just whispers and eyes, all of them heavy with judgment. She was used to commanding a room. Now she was just in it. The judge began the day by acknowledging a pending review into the DA's office. Amanda tried to object, citing reputation damage. The judge shut her down. "Counselor, what's at risk here isn't your reputation. It's the truth." Malik rose from his seat. "Your Honor, before we begin, I'd like to enter into evidence a chain of internal emails between the District Attorney's Office and the Brookridge Police Department, which appear to show an effort to suppress the dashcam footage." He walked slowly to the bench, handed the documents over. "Please note the timestamp, sent 1 day before discovery was finalized, and the subject line, 'Do not release unless pressed.'" The courtroom gasped. Amanda's face went white. The judge scanned the pages, then fixed his eyes on Amanda. "Ms. Whitmore, do you wish to respond?" Her mouth moved, but nothing came out. She sat down, and for the first time in her long career, she looked small. Malik turned back to the jury. And what he said next? It wasn't law. It was soul. "I wasn't supposed to be here," he began. "I wasn't supposed to speak. I wasn't supposed to rise. I was supposed to be another name in the system, another shadow in the corner of your courtroom, but justice doesn't follow supposed to." He gestured to the boy's grieving mother. "She lost her child, and the system said, 'We're sorry, but there's nothing we can do.'" Then he pointed to Amanda. "That system wears suits, and titles, and smiles, but it hides things. It protects itself." He paused. His voice dropped. "But the truth doesn't stay buried forever." The courtroom was dead silent. Every juror stared at Malik like he had just cracked open the foundation beneath them. And Amanda? She knew she had lost. Not just the trial, her grip, her power, her name. The verdict came in the next day. Liability confirmed. Damages, $9.3 million. The city would pay, but Amanda would pay more. Within 48 hours, she was placed on administrative leave, her face plastered across headlines not as a hero of justice, but as a symbol of how deep the rot ran. Malik, now hailed as a rising giant in civil rights law, didn't bask in the glory. He held a press conference with one sentence that shook the country. "This was never about revenge. It's about rebuilding what they broke." But that night, as he walked alone to his car, he found something on his windshield. A single envelope. No return address. No stamp. Inside, a photo. Black and white. Grainy. It showed Amanda in a quiet meeting room with Judge Halstrom, the very judge who once denied Malik's objections in Jamal's case. The timestamp? 1 day before that hearing. On the back of the photo. "You thought she was the problem. She's just one piece." Malik's jaw clenched, because that meant this wasn't over. The corruption didn't stop with Amanda. It went higher, deeper, and whoever sent this photo, they wanted him to dig, and he would. Malik Carter held the photo like it was a live wire. Amanda, Judge Halstrom, a secret meeting time-stamped just hours before the ruling that crushed his cousin's case 2 years ago. The betrayal wasn't just legal, it was personal. Judge Halstrom had shaken Malik's hand after that hearing, told him to keep trying, told him he showed promise. All the while, he had already decided to bury the case. Malik's hands trembled as the realization hit. Amanda hadn't acted alone. She was the blade. But Halstrom, he was the hand that held it. The next morning, Malik met with his small but relentless legal team. 4 young attorneys, all under 30, all brilliant, all battle-scarred by the system. He laid the photo on the table. "We've been playing checkers," Malik said quietly. "They've been playing chess." "But why would a judge risk everything?" one of them asked. Malik didn't speak at first. He stared at the photo, the smirk on Halstrom's face. the tightness in Amanda's posture. "He's not risking anything," Malik finally said, "because the whole game is rigged." And just like that, they launched an investigation. Quiet, strategic, relentless. They pulled every ruling Halstrom had made in the last 5 years. Patterns emerged. Cases Amanda prosecuted in front of him had a 92% conviction rate, unusually high. Defense motions dismissed without hearing. Evidence routinely ruled irrelevant. One file in particular caught Malik's eye. State versus Braxton. A case of a black father accused of assaulting an officer during a traffic stop. He'd been sentenced to 7 years in prison. Malik dug deeper. The arresting officer in that case? The same one who'd shot the unarmed teenager in the wrongful death trial. It wasn't coincidence. It was a network. Halstrom, Amanda, officers, prosecutors, all tied together by quiet favors, invisible strings, and silent agreements. But it didn't stop there. One night, Malik received a visit from someone unexpected. An elderly white man in a tweed coat with a firm handshake and a shaking voice. "I was a clerk for Judge Halstrom. A long time ago, he asked us to do things, told us which way to lean, gave us notes during trials." Malik leaned in. "Why are you telling me this?" The man looked down, then said something that chilled Malik to the bone. "Because they tried to do it to me, and when I said no, my license disappeared, quietly. My wife and I had to leave the state." He slid a USB drive across the table. "I kept everything. Emails, notes, voicemails, even scanned copies of private case memos from Halstrom's chambers. It was everything, and it was enough." 3 weeks later, Malik filed a formal complaint with the State Judicial Review Board. What followed was chaos. Headlines exploded. "Respected judge under investigation for collusion with district attorney's office." New evidence links multiple convictions to corrupt legal partnership. And then came the hearing. Public. Televised. Malik stood before a panel of senior judges and prosecutors. But this time, he wasn't the underdog. He was the reckoning. He presented the evidence piece by piece. The emails, the hidden meetings, the handwritten rulings prepared before trials ended. He called in former clerks, former officers, a defense attorney whose license had mysteriously been suspended after exposing misconduct. One by one, they spoke. Truths that had lived in shadows were now burning in daylight. And Halstrom? He didn't speak. He didn't blink. He just sat there watching his empire collapse. Amanda was brought in too, her expression hollow. This time, no smirk. No whisper to a junior associate. Just the heavy silence of a person finally facing the justice she had denied others for so long. The board ruled swiftly. Judge Halstrom was stripped of his robe, disbarred, and referred for criminal prosecution. Amanda Whitmore was permanently banned from practicing law. Several convictions they were linked to were overturned. And Malik? He stood before a crowd outside the courthouse, a quiet fire in his voice. "They told me I didn't belong, that I wasn't enough, that this system couldn't be changed, but justice," he paused, "is not a gift. It's not a favor. It's not a handshake behind closed doors. It's a fight. And we, all of us, have to be willing to fight for it." The crowd erupted. Cameras flashed. Lives had been changed. Justice had been served. But just as Malik turned to leave, a man stepped out from the crowd, wearing a suit, holding a folder. He handed it to Malik. "Thought you'd want to see this," the man said quietly. "It's from a federal office, not local. Bigger fish." Malik opened the folder. Inside, a list. Names, judges, lawyers, politicians, all connected to Halstrom. At the bottom of the list, one name circled in red, his former law professor. The same man who once told him, "Don't make enemies you can't afford to fight." Malik closed the folder slowly, turned toward the crowd, toward the camera, and said just one thing. "Are you ready to go deeper? Because the real question is, How high does this corruption really go? And who's going to help me take it down? You?